Welcome to the Undisputed podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Taft. This podcast is the full show from today's episode of Undisputed from start to finish. They've got a busy slate, so Skip, Shannon, let's get to it.
Good morning. Welcome to Undisputed. I'm Jenny Taft with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharpe. It is Friday. We've got a packed show. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing great. Jenny, Skip, I know you can't see me. So you know now in California, you got to have a mask on if you go out in public. And I was feeling kind of like blending in with everybody else. And so I had my guy, Sharon Barber, to make me some custom Louis Vuitton and Goyard masks. I said, because if I'm going out in style and I'm going out with a smile. What'd you think, Jenny?
Well, why don't you wear the mask for this whole show so nobody can hear you? Because I would prefer not to hear you during the show. And I appreciate the fact that you're shouting out somebody who gave you a free mask to, in fact, pay for the mask on the air. That's what's happening. I got it.
Skip, well, I got you and Ernestine one. Okay.
We got plenty. We got the...
No.
NC-19 or whatever it's, I don't know what it's called, but I wear the
Louis Vuitton N95.
Yeah, yes. That one. I got that one. Yeah. So has there ever been a more fitting day for me to wear my Lil Wayne chain, GOAT, on top of Jumpman GOAT, as the Jumpman doc, the GOAT doc, drops on Sunday night? This is going to be someday here on Undisputed.
It is, Skip. I'm very excited. I'm not going to lie, Skip. I'm excited to see this like one of these summer blockbuster movies. That's the anticipation and the build-up for this. I can't recall a build-up for something like this in an extremely long time. I'm very excited to see it.
We're all so pumped about the release of that Michael Jordan documentary. So how about we start by talking about the GOAT, Michael Jordan, because he recently said in an interview that after watching the footage back, he's worried about coming across as a horrible guy. It's also worth noting that MJ did have approval of all the footage, the final output of that documentary. So Shannon, are you surprised that Michael Jordan is worried about coming across as a bad guy?
No, because, Skip, you know Michael, he wanted to make sure his best foot was always forward. If you notice, he never did an interview with him all sweaty. He was always buttoned up. He would get fully dressed. He would put that gold earring in his ear. He would be a suit, shirt, tie. He wanted to make sure he was impeccable. He wanted people to only see that side of him. And then when he was on the court, he was all out, but very few people got an opportunity to get a glimpse at this. Skip, when we talked about this, I think it was a little over 6 weeks ago about this documentary, I said there's no way that Michael Jordan is going to let all this release without having some kind of say, some kind of approval in what's being out there. That's just the way he is. He likes control, and most people, Skip, when you're doing a documentary about my life, absolutely I'm going to have some say what gets released. But Skip, I think the notion is that people tend to think that if you're successful and you're an athlete, everything is he's a choir boy, he's goody two shoes, he didn't hurt anybody, he didn't offend anybody, and that's farthest from the truth. The more accomplished a person is, the more driven they are, and the more they will not only step on you, they will roll over you in order to accomplish their goal and make sure you're in the right frame of mind to help them accomplish that goal, and they will bring you along. So I am not the least surprised, Skip, because Michael Jordan has done everything since he burst onto the scene in 1982, Skip, almost 40 years ago. He's done everything to protect his off the court. Because a lot of this documentary, yes, Skip, we're going to see him on the court, but a lot of this is in the locker room. A lot of this is on plane rides and on the bus, and in practices, and you're going to get people will see Michael Jordan in a totally different light. Now, it's not going to change my perception of Michael, but I'm sure some people like, man, Mike was a nasty mofo. Ooh, Mike was dirty. Oh, I can't believe Mike was like that. Believe it, he was like that, and he should not have to apologize. But Skip, Mike gave you a kind of glimpse into what he was like at his Hall of Fame speech. Hall of Fame, your speech is supposed to skip a celebration, a culmination of the ultimate validation. You're going to your sport's heaven. and he took a chance to take a shot at every single person that he feel had wronged him at his speech. So I am not surprised that Michael is somewhat like, man, how am I going to, they're going to look at me in a totally different light. I'm not surprised by that. So yes, Skip, I'm not surprised, but I'm still anxious to see it, and it's not going to change my perception of him. I'm interested to hear how you feel about it.
Okay. I believe that as we speak, Michael Jordan is scared to death that he's going to come across as a horrible guy in this documentary, even though he had the executive editorial control of this. He signed off on every last inch of the footage that you're about to see in the 10-part documentary. He had total control. But I believe deep down, he's saying, I could be damned if I do and damned if I don't. He really wanted this documentary to happen. He needed it to happen right now. We're going to talk deeper about the whys of it a little later in the show. But I'll just give you a glimpse of the whys in my estimation. I believe he does get sick and tired of hearing that LeBron James is the new GOAT. And I believe he gets sick and tired of hearing a lot of times from me, the biggest Michael Jordan fan, that he is the absolute worst general manager, team builder in the history of the NBA, mostly with the Charlotte Hornets. So the point is, as he approaches age 60, he's turned 57, he starts thinking, gee, maybe it's time. I'm not on Twitter. I'm not on IG. Maybe I should do one big epic documentary, but to do so, the sort of the producers involved, they're all saying, well, gee, Michael, we gotta be real here. And he's trying to be as real as possible. And I'm trying with you today to be as real as possible. I think there's a double-edged sword operating. And yesterday, you basically accused me of, hey, you got too close to him in Chicago and you kind of pulled your punches on him. Well, sometimes maybe I do because I love the guy, but I love the horrible side of him. So today, I'm trying to be painfully honest with you. That side of him, there's a side, a big side. He's not a nice guy. What if I told you from the start about LeBron James? He's too nice of a guy. So Michael was the ultimate cold-blooded basketball killer, and you're going to see that in this documentary. And on the flip side, LeBron can beat you with his supreme talent, but it's not natural to him. It doesn't come natural to LeBron to be a cold-blooded basketball assassin. That's not his nature. That was Michael's nature. So that nature you're going to see behind the scenes, behind closed doors, is the nature that drove the rest of his teammates to try to achieve his level. So yeah, he got in fist fights in practice with Steve Kerr and Will Perdue of Vanderbilt University. And yeah, you're going to see in this documentary, he is psychologically just pushing and intimidating poor Scott Burrell, who was the 20th overall pick in the 93 draft. And Michael just was all over him every minute to try to live up to being the 20th pick in the first round of the draft. And you're going to see the guy behind closed doors he was a horrible guy in a great way. So that's the side I always embraced. And that's the side that I think a lot of people are going to say, man, that's not the guy I saw in Space Jam in 1996. That guy in Space Jam, that was the cartoon superhero who was Michael Jordan. Right. He wasn't that behind the scenes. And I've always told you, all the things that I got to see as I was around him through the 98 season, the Last Dance season, they weren't always pretty to watch, but they contributed to winning a 6th championship in 6 tries with 6 finals MVPs, because it takes that horrible side of him to be that great. So to me, I do think he's going to sit back because, Shannon, my final point, I'm going to turn it back to you, is Michael Jordan was even more protective of his image, even more guarded in his image than LeBron has ever thought about being. Because a lot of times LeBron will curse publicly, or he'll do things. He'll get mad at teammates on Twitter, between the lines. It's that sort of passive aggressive. He'll do it publicly, and that's not a pretty sight to me. So he doesn't care that much about his image, but Michael cared about his sneakers selling image, probably to a fault.
Skip, and I think the thing is that there's a public persona of Mike, and then there's a private persona. And now that he's allowing the private persona to come out, maybe he's looking back. Did I really have to do it like that? Now, Skip, he's not going to apologize for what he accomplished, but I think sometimes that, Skip, we get to a certain destination, and I won't preface this. I'm not saying I'm Michael Jordan, but there have been times I look back and wondering if I could have done it differently and got the same results. And that's wishful thinking. Now, I don't regret anything that I've done, because I don't know, I'm not necessarily sure that I could have got it to this point without being that way, Skip. I remember when I got to John. John was a great player, and I'm not saying John Elway is Michael Jordan, but he would say things that he wanted to make sure that Shannon and the other guys was ready come game time. So he would do certain things, not to this. I mean, John wasn't trying to get no quarterbacks at a different level, Skip. They ain't trying to fight anybody. Nobody's really trying to fight the quarterback. But I'm saying great players, they need to make sure. Skip, I wanted to make sure, Skip, because come fourth quarter, I need to know who I can count on. So when Mike asks a question, or head coach asks me a question, what play should we call? If I can't get it, well, throw the ball to him, because I know he's ready. Well, Michael Jordan says, hold on, I'm going to be ready. I need to know, Scotty's going to be ready, but I need to know who else is going to be ready. So I'm going to push buttons come practice time. I'm going to push buttons behind the scene so I'll know who I can count on. Skip, look, when you look at Mike, we think of McDonald's and we think of Gatorade, and everybody want to be like Mike. And Mike said, hell, when they see this, they ain't going to want to be like Mike. They're going to forget Mike. Yeah. But Skip, he shouldn't worry about that. He should make no concessions about what he was, because Skip, look, and I think that's what happens, Skip. We have some public people, and when they have frailties behind the scenes and they come out, you're like, I didn't know that he was like that, or I didn't know she was like that. And I think that's what Michael is going through. But in order to tell the story in its totality, he had to put the majority of this out here so we could see, because you don't want to run the risk of having a bunch of stuff and then somebody come back and say, well, this is not all, there was more. So I don't think anybody's going to come back and say, man, because without dry snitching, Mike behind the scenes, he a different breed, Skip. I mean, people don't really get it, because for the most part, very few people got an opportunity to get a glimpse behind the curtain. But man, Mike, Skip, when you say he's a different animal, and when people says he's a different animal, they don't really understand the kind of animal that Mike is. But he was different. And one more thing, Skip, before I go, if you listen to everybody talk about Michael, you look at Shaq and you look at all the other great players, they all describe Michael as like a godlike figure. They say he's levitating. And Skip, that was the first thing I told you when I met him. I could not believe, this man is levitating. This is Michael Jordan. And everybody says Shaq is a great player, could arguably be a top 10 player, and other great players. That's the mystique. That's the aura behind Michael. And I don't know that, Skip. I don't know if we'll ever see another player that can possess that.
Okay, but what I learned in '98, being around him on a daily basis, was he fiercely protected that side that you're talking about. And the public didn't see that side, and to this day hasn't really seen that side. The first big glimpse came, if you remember, following the first championship season back in 90-91, when my former colleague at the Chicago Tribune, Sam Smith, wrote a book called The Jordan Rules. And it had a number of behind-the-scenes glimpses of that guy you're talking about, that guy you could write off as a horrible guy. And Michael completely dismissed the book. He said, basically, I'll laugh at it, then I'll move on. His teammates all defended him by ripping and shredding the book. And the book was dead on accurate. So that was the first glimpse behind the scenes. And then from there on, he does in 96, as I mentioned, he does Space Jam. And everybody went back to thinking, wow, he's a cartoon superhero. He's the nicest guy on the planet. And the first thing I noticed in 98 was in covering the games is that, to your point, and I think I told you this early on, he never missed a trick. He never did an interview sweaty ever after a game, except maybe a quick one with Ahmad Rashad courtside, obviously still in his basketball stuff. Yes. But he would make us wait for an hour 15 before he got completely showered, dressed, got the earring in, got everything perfect so he could present the perfect image to the public. So what always got me was that a guy that you would think would just own the fact that he was a ruthless competitor wouldn't own it in public. He did not want the public to see that. And there was the infamous quote, remember, that he reportedly told a friend, Republicans buy sneakers too. So he was completely apolitical. He didn't want to take a side. He didn't want to take any social stand. I've always lauded and applauded your man LeBron James for all of his social commentary and blazing some new trails and taking stands that could cost him advertisers or advertising. And LeBron has guts in that realm. And Michael always said, not me, I'm out. I want to sell more sneakers. And he sold billions of dollars worth of sneakers, as we all know. And they're a great product and they're worthy of buying because I'm wearing them right now. But the point is that he had to protect his image. So you had the duality of cold-blooded killer in reality. That guy who off the court, capable of just about anything. And I'm not sure how much of that will be in the documentary, to your point. But again, in the public eye, pristine image. And I think he's very nervous right now of, gee, I needed this documentary now. I needed it in large part to show the billions of new blind witnesses who think LeBron is the GOAT, led by Shannon Sharpe. I need to show them what I used to be, because that was back in 1998. That was 22 years ago. As we know, there are a whole lot of people watching our show right now who never saw Michael Jordan live. And I get it. Nope. But if you didn't see it live, it's hard for you to get it. So he's saying, watch this. But in saying, watch this, is he going to show you too much? Will he alienate some of his fans who will say, I didn't know that. Maybe he wasn't the nice guy I thought that he was. Nope, he was not. But I personally never thought he was a nice guy to start with. And that's in large part what I loved the most about him as a basketball player / killer.
Skip, we hear a lot of athletes says that, when they have a great game or they have a great, and he's like, one day I'm going to be able to sit back and I'm going to tell my grandkids, well, this is Michael Jordan. He's the old man. You said he's 57. He's the guy. He's about to pop in the tape and say, and tell all these people, look at what this guy did. Because we hear that all the time. I didn't really think about it, but one day I'll be able to tell my kids, I'll be able to tell my grandkids, well, Michael Jordan is about to put a CD in, or DVD, or whatever you want to call it now, and he's about to let the world see what he did for those that did not get an opportunity to see it up close and personal. And he's also going to take you behind the scene. Skip, even though some people know what's in sausage, and even once they found out how it's made, they still ate it. There's still going to be some people that after they see this, they're still going to love Michael Jordan, and rightfully so. I have no problems with it. Skip, he was just, like I said, you got to, Skip, I just wish every person in America, Skip, could just be around him one time. I'm talking about just be around him. I'm not talking about have a conversation, but just get within 5-10 feet of him and just look at him. And you'll see what everybody else has been saying. Skip, it's not real. It's an unbelievable feeling. I know, Skip, I know my grandmother's rolling over. She said, boy, you should not have reverence for any man like that. There's only one man you're supposed to have reverence and supposed to look up to. And I understand, Skip, idolatry is a no-no. But Skip, this man is ridiculous. This man is ridiculous in his aura and his presence. And what made him, and what as pristine, as impeccable as he was, Skip, like you said, yeah, he might stand courtside with Ahmad and give an interview, but he was not bringing his butt to the podium with a towel draped around his with a towel draped around his neck, Skip, ice on his knees, shuffling to the podium. That was not Michael Jordan. He was coming with that hoop. Skip, you remember, as a rookie, he used to wear big gold chains. You can put the earring in at the podium, but you're not going to be wearing the gold chain in an actual game. But, Skip, I am so excited to see this. I would not miss this. It's going to take 10,000 soldiers, an act of Congress, and a calling from God to have me miss this. I would not miss this for all the tea in China. And you know they make a lot of tea in China. But I'm not missing this. I want to see, because like I said, Skip, I know a lot of what happened on the court because you were there, so you know. But I really want to see some of these bus rides. I mean, you got a little glimpse of it. And when Jared Reinsdorf told a story about how Michael broke his foot and wanted to come back, and the doctor said there's a 10% chance he could mess it up. If he messed it up again, his career was over. And Jared Reinsdorf is explaining, he said, Mike, there are 10 pills. 9 of them would cure your headache. 1 would kill you. Would you take one? Mike said, well, how bad is the effing headache? Do you understand what that man is saying? Do you understand the mindset? Yeah, I would take it. If my headache is hurting so bad, I would roll the dice. Well, every day he got up out of bed. Skip, this man, greatness drove him. That's the only thing that I can think of, greatness. He wanted to be great. And when you say people like, well, Michael knew. Because Isaiah said 20 games into it, he's going to create another position. Larry Bird called a man Jesus with sneakers. You're talking about 2 Panthers all-time greats. And that's what they were saying about this man early in his career. So they saw it coming. The storm was on the horizon. Skip, forecasters like, well, there's going to be a storm coming and it's going to be a big one. Well, without technology, just with eyes, that storm is coming. And it happened in 1984, and it's going to blow through this league, and we're not going to see anything. Skip, we can debate the greatness of the player, but nobody is going to have the aura that this man created. It's impossible. It's impossible.
So does that mean that right here, right now, live on Undisputed, you're willing to concede that Michael Jeffrey Jordan is the GOAT?
Skip, what? Skip, I said the man's aura. I said, you can't take that away from him. You can't take the way the guy played. And then you take it as a chance to try to slide in there. Bron the GOAT. Guess what? I'm going to have the same anticipation 25 years from now. Let me see him. And hopefully my eyesight is good. But if it can't, I hope I can still hear. And I can hear about GOAT James and the behind the scenes and how ruthless he was. And maybe he put paws on somebody that stepped out of line like your guy. He stole Steve Kerr, too. I hope they show that in the footage where he stole little Stevie Kerr. Little Stevie. Swung on little Stevie. Big Will Perdue, Will Perdue deserved that. Anybody from Vanderbilt deserved to get swung on because he probably stepped out of line. But Skip,
Hey, at least Michael picked on somebody his own size with Will Perdue, because Will Perdue's 7 feet tall, just for the record.
Skip, LeBron is not like that. LeBron is not one of those guys that's LeBron is like, we trying to bring people together. That's what we do. We're going to bring us together. Mm-hmm. Skip, there's different ways to lead now. I don't want to see, there you go with that. See, this is why I get him. I've been praising Mike because he's historically and generational. He's 10 generational great. And there now you try to take a swipe at LeBron. I'm not going to let you do that, Skip.
We're done. We're done with MJ for now. Shannon, put your mask back on. We're moving on. No mercy. Well, last night, the NBA Horse Challenge came to an end. Zach LaVine and Mike Conley met in the finals. We got to talk about the fact that Conley's setup was pretty incredible. What an indoor gym he was playing on compared to LaVine. He was playing outside on a wet court. Either way, Conley did end up winning by 3 letters. So, Shannon, what was your take? What was your thoughts on this competition?
Mike Conley's really good at horse. Skip, and I had a feeling that Mike Conley was going to, and I said at the beginning, once I saw him play and that he's equally as good shooting the basketball with his non-dominant hand, which is his right hand, as he is his dominant hand, which is his left hand, I said, he's not losing. Skip, and what I saw from Mike Conley last night, he just didn't say, okay, they got a horse tournament. Okay, let me go practice it. He practiced these shots a lot. Skip, the shot that he hit, he was dribbling, and then behind his back, off the backboard, and straight in. And then the one over the top of the backboard, Skip, that's not something you just all of a sudden after a week just go out there and do. He made it look so easy. Skip, him spinning the ball and then punching it, and it goes in. Skip, it tells me that Mike Conley practiced these shots a lot. Now, he's at a decided disadvantage because he's in the confines of a 70-degree indoor gymnasium. But, Skip, I'm not so sure that anyone would have beat him because in order to be good at horse, what do you got to have, Skip? Imagination, creativity. And some of the things that he was attempting, I'm like, really? Skip, now I'm thinking this went so well, maybe they could have this at the All-Star game, but you're going to have to cut it down. You're probably going to have to play pig, Skip, because if you get a bunch of guys, Skip, it's probably going to take a little longer than what you want to. So instead of having 5 letters, you're going to have 3. But this would be something that would be very, very interesting. They could do away with the dunk contest. I mean, no Zach LaVine. Aaron Gordon said he's not participating anymore. So have this, and maybe you can get Steph. Maybe you can get KD, James Harden, some of these other guys that can participate. Because, Skip, when you really look at it, the dunk contest used to get the big-name guys. You got Dominique. You got Dr. J, Mike Jordan, Kobe. Skip, you're not getting that level of talent anymore. Guys can dunk. Yeah, I'll give you that. But it's not the name recognition that we're used to. This was something I could get behind.
Okay. Congratulations to Mike Conley Jr. Love him. Had him on shows off the court. He's a great guy, great winner of this competition. But I got to get this off my chest about what happened in the semifinal before that final. And this is not a reaction to what I saw last night because I had a pre-action at the end of yesterday's show, at which time I challenged Zach LaVine to please play fair against Allie Quigley in the semifinal. And he did not play fair. He did not go strength versus strength. We all know that Zach LaVine has won 2 dunk contests. We know he can jump out of the gym. As Allie Quigley said on the show last night, hey, I got no ups. She's got no ups, but she has won twice the WNBA's 3-point shootout. And she can do lots of trick shots off the backboard, behind the backboard, even sitting down on the court, Pete Maravich style, off the backboard. And I thought she had a chance if Zach LaVine would fight fair, play fair, and go strength versus strength, because despite him winning the 2 dunk contests, he also has made the second most 3-point shots in a game in the history of the NBA. He made 13 in a game, which tied Steph, and 14 is the record, Clay. So he can shoot it crazy hot with anybody. And it outraged me that Allie, first she dared him to go strength versus strength, and then she all but pleaded with him, please don't do that. Just how about we shoot 3s, because that would be a fair fight. And instead, he's got to go do a bunch of acrobatic leaping shots at the rim. They're near dunks, but he gets right to the rim and it looks like it's close, and then he doesn't dunk it. Well, obviously, she's not even capable of making that shot or pulling it off. And she's going to look foolish the way Paul Pierce looked foolish, what we saw last Sunday, trying to even do the shot, because she's not going to be able to get off the ground as Paul Pierce could not get off the ground. So it was an outrage to me that he would just admit, okay, I'm going to do this because I don't want to tempt fate and try those. At one point she got to him. I think he was up 8-0. And she said, oh, come on, like shoot a 3. And he tried to shoot 1 3 and he missed, and she made hers and got a letter on him. But in general, come on, Zach. I mean, I believe she could have beaten him if you play, outside the lane horse. That's the way I like to play horse. Outside the lane. If you want to shoot it from behind the backboard, fine. If you want to shoot it from out of bounds and in the corner 3s, you can shoot it from out of bounds. But just stay out of the lane, because once you get in the lane, it's not even horse anymore to me. It's closer to a dunk contest. So I was actually happy that Mike Conley then took him to school and took advantage of Zach LaVine, because the truth was, in the final, Zach LaVine is terrible with his left hand. I mean, he's like, if I may say it, well, no, I won't say that. So the point was that Zach LaVine, it was no contest when Mike Conley would say, shoot with your offhand. And I've told you this before about Mike Conley. We've talked about Spurs versus the Grizzlies, because they played 21 times with Mike Conley as the point guard versus the Spurs. And he would just torment my Spurs because he's a better shooter right-handed than he is left-handed. And he said that last night. I wish I never even started shooting with my left hand. Yeah, he said, right. I'm a better shooter right-handed. Okay, well, that's not fair either. It's like such a huge advantage that Zach LaVine had no shot shooting with his offhand, which was his left hand.
Yes. But Skip, the thing is that he didn't dunk. Skip, he can't give up all of his advantage. You talk about fair. Now, the last time I've been to a fair, I got a candied apple with peanuts. I rode the merry-go-round, got cotton candy, and I saw an elephant. That's what the last time I've been to a fair. Skip, if you have the number one rush defense, I have the number one passing offense. Why am I trying to run the ball against you? Why not throw it? Why not play to my strength? I'm trying to win. And then when he loses, they're like, do you let the WNBA? No. If I lose, I'm going to lose, but I'm going to lose with my strength. Well, Mike Conley, they should have said, well, Mike Conley, you can't do anything with your non-dominant hand. Because, Skip, as he said, I shoot better with my right than I do my left. And I should have never started tinkering with my left hand. Skip, he's shooting. You can't tell the difference. And Skip, he's got a bag. And it almost seems like he's been waiting for this, Skip. You know how you like, I hope I hope they ask me this question, because they ask me this question, I know the answer. It's like these kids and the spelling bee, Skip. Hey, when that guy gives them this word, origin, and then all of a sudden, can you put it in a sentence? And they get them in a sentence, and they start rocking back and forth. And like, I know this one. I'm going to win. Well, Mike Conley like, horse? And I'm indoors, and everybody else is outdoors. Y'all not winning. Skip, one try. He goes, throws the ball over the backboard, and he swishes the net. Everything is just like, no, Skip. They're not beating him. And I would have never thought Mike. Skip, when you're thinking horse, you're thinking of guys that can shoot the ball. Obviously, Steph and Clay, guys that have tremendous English like James Harden and Kyrie. But Mike Conley, in a game like this, I don't know how anybody beat him. Especially, Skip, if he's like, okay, shoot with your non-dominant hand. Yes, Skip, we know everybody in the NBA can lay the ball up left-handed if you're a righty, or lay the ball up righty if you're a lefty. But actually shoot the ball. That's a whole different ball game.
Okay, back to Zach LaVine. He also had the number one rush defense, if you want to use that analogy. He had both. He had the number one pass defense and the number one rush defense. He can really shoot threes. So why wouldn't you, in the spirit of competition, say, I'm going to beat her at our strengths, because I know she can't do any dipsy-do shots at the rim because she's not a leaper. She is a pure standstill catch-and-shoot shooter. So why would you make the competition? Why would you render it moot and unfair by saying, let me get 4 letters on her by doing leaping, dipsy-do, acrobatic shots at the rim, touching the backboard? She can't even try to do that. But if that's all you could do, if you were a non-shooter, if you were Shaquille O'Neal and you couldn't shoot a 3 and you could barely shoot a free throw, if you were that guy, I'd say, okay, you don't really have a choice. He had a huge choice because he's not just a good three-point shooter. He might be even better than she is, but he didn't have the guts on live TV. I know they had taped it, but he didn't have the guts to challenge her at their strength instead of going to just his solo strength. And it really offended me. It took a lot of the fun out of the competition for me.
No, it didn't take no fun out of me. I win, and I'm trying to win. I'm trying to win, Skip. I mean, look, we got this thing, this movement that women want empowering, and so we're empowering them. And so when you come into the arena, Skip, it's just like that soccer player says she wants to kick field goals. Okay, well, you do know, Skip, on blocked field goals, there are opportunities you might get clipped. So no. We play fair. You come into our arena, you play by our rules. That's how we do it, Skip. So not Mike Conley. Why don't you give me credit that I picked Mike Conley from the beginning? Won't you say anything about that?
Well, because I told you he had a decided advantage being indoors, but I also think that the one guy who had an equal advantage being outdoors was Zach LaVine, because I didn't sense any wind out there. He's in a little suburb of Seattle, like 35 miles north of Seattle. And it looked like they'd shot the whole tournament on the same day. I know you'd mentioned that it snowed in Denver. I think they'd already shot, they shot it all at once.
Yeah, they had to.
The day
they had to.
Yes, because the day Zach LaVine got north of Seattle, that it looked like it was calm and it was obviously sunny. And so I think the court was just fine. I think his conditions were just about equal to Mike Conley's conditions indoor in his own gym in Columbus, Ohio. So I thought that was pretty much a fair fight. But you're right. I tweeted right after I saw Mike Conley the very first day on Sunday. I said he's going to be very difficult to beat because he's ambidextrous.
Well, Skip, it looked like it started misting something what Zach was. It looked like it started like maybe a little misty, a little snow or some type of precipitation started to happen. Now, I know what the weather was in Denver yesterday, and they did not shoot that yesterday in Denver, Colorado, Skip Bayless, because they got somewhere between 3 and 7 inches of snow. And Chauncey, I think Chauncey might be in Castle Pine or Castle Rock, which is a suburb of Denver, but it snowed in the Colorado area where Chauncey is. So that let me know. I was like, if he doesn't forfeit, they shot all this on one day. Still, no problem with that. But Mike Conley, Skip, he got a bag. Some people like field goal kickers, Skip. Some guys are better at onside kick than others because they practice things of that nature. Like trick shot. Let's just say if the quarterbacks had a trick shot throwing competition. Do you believe anybody's going to beat Patrick Mahomes with all the trick shots that he actually will attempt in a game? What does he attempt in practice or during a warm-up, Skip? And so that's how Mike Conley strikes me as a guy that in practice, he's attempting a lot of these things. I saw a video last night of where Luka Doncic threw it off the floor and kicked it into the basket from about 40 feet. I mean, these guys are really good, Skip. They practice a lot of this stuff. I mean, just sitting around to break the monotony of just, 5-on-5 or whatever, running through, screens and things of that nature. Guys want to break up the monotony. And, you've been around enough football practice and basketball practice to know that's how guys are.
I got it. But I thought Zach LaVine didn't play to his strength in the final either, in that Mike Conley is not a great three-point shooter, especially from the top of the key, from the straight-on three. In fact, when Zach LaVine finally made one that he called backboard on from the three-point straight on, it's not a conventional shot. You got to backboard it. Mike Conley groaned like he knew that's not his spot, and he missed that one badly. So maybe if Zach had played more to his own strength, he could have defeated the bag that Conley had. If you start going out to the top of the key or shoot deep threes, he didn't try any deep threes on Mike Conley because Mike's not the greatest shooter. He's just an okay three-point shooter, an okay free throw shooter. I thought Zach could have gotten him if he had gone crazy hot from deep three like we saw him do in the game in which he hit 13 threes.
Well, Skip, I think the thing is that Conley picked up HOR on him so quick, it took him out what he would probably do because he was never in an advantageous situation. He never got an opportunity to relax. He knew, like, okay, man, I already got 3 letters on me, so let me try to do some dipsy-do. And then once Conley got a rhythm, Skip, once you're playing from behind, you have to get ultra hot in order to come back because the guy's already up on you 3-0. And so what happened with him is that Conley was, like you said, indoors. He's comfortable. And then he's like, Skip, and plus you can look at a guy and say, okay, he's uncomfortable doing it. See, I can stay right around the edge, and he can't do any of the stuff that I'm doing, and I haven't really went deep into my bag yet. So I believe Conley has even more tricks that he could use, let's just say if something like this were to come during All-Star Weekend. But Skip, to finally get something that we could see other than the 85 finals or the 2014 or 15 finals, this was a welcome relief for me.
Yep. And all I know is Zach got what he deserved in the finals.
Let it go.
At least we had something to watch, right, guys? It was entertaining, and at this point, we'll take it. No mercy. Former All-Pro receiver Brandon Marshall thinks that Tom Brady and the Bucs are a perfect fit. Marshall said the Bucs might have the best receivers in the league, but it will still be a, quote, dink and dunk offense. So, Shannon, do you agree with Brandon Marshall?
No, but I do agree when he says it's going to be dink and dunk. That's an offense. They went bombs over Baghdad last year. Now they dinking and dunking. Oh, Skip Bayless, I thought Tom Brady still had a cannon. He could still throw it. Brandon Marshall, first of all, Brandon lost his mind. Hold on. The Saints. Are the Saints still in the NFC South? My note said over the last 3 years, the Saints have the most wins in the NFL, 37. Let's see. Saints, Drew Brees, Sean Payton, added Emmanuel Sanders. Kamara's still there. Skip, stop this notion. Yeah, I mean, we need to stop this. Look, everybody happy. Tom Brady seems to be happy. He's out of New England, under Coach Belichick's thumb. He's in Tampa. It's nice and sunny. He's staying on the Gulf of Mexico in Derek Jeter's big palatial estate. We get all of that. But now all of a sudden, because he's in the division, the Saints' window has closed. Who the hell is shut? I'm confused. I get, Skip, Brandon, he's training right now. He said he wants to be heavyweight boxing champion of the world. Maybe he had just come from sparring and he was a little tired. Maybe, he got hit a couple times and they knocked the air out of him. But he must be out of his mind if he thinks the window is closed for the Saints and it's wide open for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You and I both know that's not the case. And my good old friends at Fox Bet says the over-under for the Saints is 10.5 wins. Tied with the 49ers for the highest in the NFC. The Bucs are at 9. Saints also have the second best odds to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl behind the 49ers. Well, now Fox Bet, last I checked, gambling sites don't get in the business to lose money. Do they, Skip? So I'm going to take my good old friends at Fox Bet at their words. They're not winning the division. Are they, Skip?
I already predicted that Brady's Buccaneers will win next year's division. I already told you they're going to go 12-4, and I figure the Saints will be very good at 11-5. But I believe they'll split their 2 games, but that Brady's schedule is a little easier than the Saints' schedule, and that they'll be right on time because he now has 4 weapons and 2 coaches he did not have in New England. And back to Brandon Marshall, I know him, I love him, I appreciate him. I've had him on lots of shows in the past. Miss him. Hope we can have him on Undisputed at some point soon. But the point is, his point was completely correct. And I remind you, Shannon, Bruce Arians has offensive genius about him. His consultant, Tom Moore, is an offensive guru. So obviously, they're not going to ask 43-year-old Tom Brady to do what they too often ask Jameis to do a year ago as the Bucs went 7-9. And that was to stand in the pocket and hold it and hold it and hold it until you're about to get blasted in the face and bomb it and then get blasted in the face. That's not going to happen this year. As Brandon said correctly, they're going to spread it out with all those 4 weapons, but there's a 5th weapon named little Scotty Miller, a rookie last year, 6th-round pick out of Bowling Green. He has elite speed and elite quickness in short area routes. he'll be in the slot. They've got the 2 tight ends. They can use one or both. They can get 5 receivers out into a quicker pattern than they threw last year. And Tom Brady will do a lot of quick throws. If you want to call them dinking and dunking, if they work for 5 yards, 7 yards, 8 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards, 6 yards, that's good. That will work. But trust me on this. If all of a sudden you want to single Mike Evans with a smaller DB and Tom Brady sees it and they make eye contact, trust me, Tom Brady will say, watch this. And he'll throw jump balls up to Mike Evans. If you get Chris Godwin on a slower DB on the other side singled up, trust me, Tom Brady will say, thank you, I will take that, because I'm going to remind you of my favorite stat from Brady last year in New England. On 20-plus yard throws into tight windows, 20-plus yards, that's getting way down the field, Tom Brady was tied for first in completion percentage in the National Football League. He can still throw it. There's nothing wrong with his velocity or his deep ball. It's the same as it was before. He'll be getting rid of the ball for the most part much quicker than Jameis ever thought about it, because nobody can speed read the way Tom Brady can't. He's the greatest speed reader ever. So to me, they will re-cater this offense to Brady, and it will be very difficult to stop. And I told you, Todd Bowles' defense is being underrated, and this will be the team that emerges as the division winner next year.
So let me get this right. So in the words of one Skip Bayless, Bruce Arians might have sabotaged Jameis Winston because he asked him to stand in the line of fire and look down the gun barrel and take it right between the chops and throw it. Whereas he's going to ask Tom Brady, Tom, we're going to get the ball quicker out of your hands. So is that what you're telling me? He set Jameis up for failure? Is that what you're telling me? Because his offense is to push the ball down the field. Why would you not push the ball down the field?
Jameis Winston, if you watched him at Florida State and watched him through his NFL career, is not the most accurate passer mid-range or short range. He's better throwing the deep ball. Bruce was playing to Jameis's deep ball strength. Tom Brady is deadly accurate underneath as well as throwing the deep ball. So why wouldn't you take what the defense is going to give you underneath with accurate quick throws, which is Tom Brady's strength? That's all. He was trying to play to Jameis's strength, but unfortunately, Jameis tries to win one for the Gipper on every throw. Every throw out of Jameis's hand, he wants it to be a touchdown pass. So he threw 33 of them last year. That was second to Lamar in his 36 touchdown passes in the league. But he threw 30 interceptions and he lost the ball on 5 fumbles. That's 35 turnovers, 12 more than any other quarterback in the league. And obviously you can't win that way. And Tom Brady will not turn the ball over 35 times.
Well, if that's the case, why does like 5 of the 6 quarterbacks that have played for Bruce Arians have had their career high interception if he always caters the offense to what they do really well? So guys like Andrew Luck, guys like Peyton Manning had their career high when Bruce Arians is the offensive coordinator or the quarterback coach. Why is that? Because he caters the offense. Okay. There's no way. Because you said it was... No. Go ahead. Peyton Manning was what?
Peyton Manning was a rookie when he led the NFL in interceptions under Bruce Arians. So, Again, Peyton was a rookie. If they'd gone on together, they're going to do a lot more dinking and dunking because Peyton could dink and dunk with the best of them also.
Well, you do realize that it's not like Peyton he was Peyton's OC in 98, 99, and 2000. It's not like Peyton had 5 interceptions in 99 and 2000. He was in the double digits those years also. You do realize that, right, Skip? So what about Andrew Luck?
I do
Andrew Luck any good? Okay, I was just checking. Yeah, All I'm saying is this.
But what did he do worse? Andrew Luck, what was... I told you before the draft, or I told everybody on television before the draft, he holds the ball too long and tries to throw home runs on nearly every play. Again, Arians playing to Andrew Luck's strength, which became his weakness because he took way too many shots. And as we speak, he's retired. I hope he comes back, but he just took too much punishment in too short of a time.
Skip, that's BA's offense. I mean, because you said Jameis holds the ball too long and took shots. Andrew Luck, maybe that's the offense, because the one thing that there is no correlation between Andrew Luck and Jameis Winston. The only thing that they have in common is who called the plays, who's the OC at the time in which they took all those sacks, in which the time they threw all those interceptions. And that's Bruce Arians. So he bears no responsibility?
Shannon, Bruce Arians now has the GOAT. The GOAT has been much better at what the GOAT does than Bruce has ever been at what he does, because Bruce hasn't won a Super Bowl as a head coach, so his credentials don't equal Brady's. So obviously, he's going to listen to Tom's input also, and obviously, they're going to have a lot of check with me's at the line of scrimmage, a lot of option routes that Brady will call. So he'll be dictating a lot of the play calling at the line of scrimmage. It will be Tom Brady's offense, with a whole lot of input from Arians and especially the great Tom Moore. So, and obviously Byron Leftwich is calling the plays. So they will all get their heads together, and the offense is going to look a lot different this year than it did last year, because obviously Tom Brady is not going to risk a career-ending injury for one touchdown pass. He hasn't done that for the last 5, 6, 7 years of his career, and that's why he's had the longevity that he's had.
Well, they asked that of Jameis. They asked Jameis to stare down the gun barrel and wait till the last possible second to throw the ball down the field. Why would they ask that of Tom Brady?
Well, Tom's 43 years of age, and they would like to win a Super Bowl with Tom Brady, and he'd like to play until he's 48 years of age. So obviously, he's not going to do the things. That's what Jameis did best, was hold it, and bomb it.
That's what was asked of Jameis. Jameis says, I'm 25. I would like to see my 30th birthday. But y'all asked me to stand in the line of fire and don't flinch. Well, Tom Brady should be asked to do the same thing, right? You said he's that same guy. Tom Brady, nothing has changed. When I said Tom Brady was starting to flinch, he's not flinching. But now you want to make sure he doesn't flinch, because all you want to do is dink and dink and dink and dink. No, push the ball down the field. No risk it, no biscuit.
It sounds to me like you're getting nervous that Tom Brady's going to be full-on Tom Brady next year.
No mercy.
Just days after it was reported that Dak Prescott would not participate in the Cowboys' virtual offseason program with no deal, there is now a report that the team and Dak are not any closer to reaching an agreement. So, Shannon, I start with you. How will this play out for Dak and the Cowboys?
It's probably going to Dak going to end up having to play 1 year on the franchise tag deal. Skip, they're not getting anywhere close, because I think the thing is the Cowboys want everything on their terms. They want the length of the contract on their terms. They want the money on their terms. They want the wording and the language in the contract on their terms. And Dak's like, no, you got to give up some concessions. If you want 6 years, it's going to cost you $40 million. If you don't, we're going to have to come to some kind of agreement here, because I want 4 and to get an opportunity to get back at the bite of the apple. Well, the Cowboys are like, nah, we're going to do 6 years, because, Skip, obviously they want to spread it, because you can spread $80, $90 million over 6 years a lot better than you can spreading $80, $90 million over 4 years. And I think everybody gets that. That's how, contracts will work. The sign-up bonus is prorated over the length of the contract, so we can spread it out over 6 years. Dak wants something more in line of 4 years, because he wants to get back at the table. He knows they just got labor peace for the next decade, and the new TV contract's about to become up, and there's going to be more money. Dak doesn't want to be 3 years into a deal with 3 years left on an ISO or an obsolete contract for the quarterback position. But what this tells me, I don't care what anybody said, and they can dress it up however they want to. The Cowboys are not sold on Dak Prescott, because we saw other quarterbacks get their money, be it Wentz, be it Goff, be it Matt Ryan, be it Matthew Stafford, Russell Wilson. Everybody else has gotten their money. Ryan Tannehill, after 8 games, got his money. And they dilly-dallying around with Dak Prescott. Dak, I keep telling you, they tell you one thing, they smile in your face, and they talking behind your back, bro. Because it's not jiving, Skip Bayless. You know it's not jiving. My grandpa used to tell my brother now, he said, boys, I see better than I hear. Now, I hear what Jerry and Steven said. Dak is a franchise quarterback. We can win multiple Super Bowls. But when it's time to, pay up, they money jump funny. Dak Prescott, See you come training camp. I told you, Skip Bayless, this is what was going to happen. Y'all playing with this man. Dak said, y'all play all you want to. I see you at training camp, and let's hope for the best. But, hey, it is what it is.
So, you are loving this. I am hating this more and more by the day. And back to Jenny's question, how will this play out? I'm pretty sure it's going to play out badly for both sides. I think this whole thing is going slowly south. I have no more positive expectations on Dak Prescott getting any deal done by the July 15th deadline. It just feels like they're getting farther and farther apart, and it feels like there's starting to be some resentment, bitterness, rancor between the two sides because Dak is starting to act, to me, out of character. He's starting to do things that make me not even recognize the Dak Prescott that for years I have defended on this show. All last year, you told me how below average Dak was to the point that you often gave him Fs for his performance. Fs. And I would give him an A- and you'd say, no, he was terrible. And now you want Jerry to pay terrible. And I don't understand that because that is the classic speaking out of both sides of mouth. But obviously you want Jerry to wreck my salary cap, our salary cap. And again, I'm pretty sure that Dak and his new agent are asking for unrealistic money, out of bounds money. As much as I love him as a quarterback, he's not Patrick Mahomes. I don't think he's quite as good as Deshaun Watson. I've said that from the start. I still love him. I still believe in him. He didn't have a great year last year. He put up a lot of numbers, but my man Shannon Sharpe kept telling me empty calories in losing efforts. They went 8-8. He didn't make enough of the plays to win the games to get them over the hump. And I can't defend that, and I didn't defend that. So my point, Shannon, is all of a sudden I'm seeing a new Dak. And when the other day we had the conflict over how many people were at Dak's party or dinner, whichever it was, last Friday night at his house, a week ago tonight, in Prosper, Texas, just north of Dallas. Remember, the TMZ story said there were around 30, and Stephen Jones then went on his radio show to say that won't happen again. That was after the police got called to check it out. And Dak came right on top of that with a public rebuke of Stephen Jones and, in turn, Jerry Jones by saying, no, we had fewer than 10 people there. Well, Dak, as Shannon agreed with me, we saw the TMZ video of this buffet spread, the video sweep of it. It looked like you were ready to feed 50 people there. So it's hard to believe there weren't 30 plus. It's hard to believe that the police were called because you were having a 9 or 10 person dinner party. I think there were a whole bunch of cars and maybe a whole bunch of noise, and I'm good with that most times, but not at this time that we're in right now in this country. So again, it looked like he drew a line and kind of quote unquote went to war with Stephen Jones publicly. That's not my quarterback. And then we had the story this week, Shannon, that he's not going to participate in any of the off-season, virtual as it might be, but it sounds like he's going to sacrifice the goal of winning for his personal gain in his contract. And when you're the quarterback, you can't do that. Not for this team, not at this time.
But Skip, you said, Shannon, you're talking out of both sides of your neck because you said he got Fs and now you want Jerry to pay him. Where Skip Bayless gave him A's but doesn't want him to get paid. I'm confused. You also said you can't defend empty calorie stats and losing efforts and they go in 8-8. But you fought me tooth and nail at the time. So I'm confused, Skip Bayless. If you're giving him A's at the time last year, why do you have a problem giving him $40 million? If you gave him A's, you said last year he's worth it. Oh, he's a top 5 quarterback. Now when it comes time to pay up, now he's not worth his money. Dak is starting to see what I've been seeing all along. Don't reward me with your praise. Reward me with that money. because I can't spend praise. I can spend money. So you and Jerry, y'all say one thing, but when it comes time to sign them documents, I can't get no signature on it. Because Skip Bayless was telling me he gets an A+. I'm like, Jenny, how did he get an A for this? They lost, he gets an A. My quarterback's unbelievable. Now your quarterback's been unbelievable all year. It comes time to get that money. Well, he was 8-8. He didn't make the throw. He lost to Carson Wentz. He lost to Teddy Bridgewater. Yada, yada, yada. All the things that I tried to tell you during the season, which you had a problem with. Now, I agree with you. The Hall of Famer said Dak didn't get it done. I'm not going to let you off the hook like that, Skip. Pay that man $40 million, Jerry. Pay him.
I'm not going to let you off the hook because I told you eye to eye across the debate desk in the Fox studio on the Monday after the New Orleans loss, 12-10? I told you Dak missed an early throw across the back line of the end zone to an open Randall Cobb. I docked him for that. I definitely didn't give him an A for that game. He came on hot at the end of the game, but was too little, too late, and they scored only 10 points. And I definitely did not give him an A for the game at Philadelphia, a game that was sink or swim to win the division. You could win or lose and go home. And what did he do late in the game? He had Tavon Austin break wide open for a touchdown, and he just missed him. And I told you the next day, he missed him. That could have been the throw of the game. They would have had to convert a 2-point conversion to tie it at 17, but they lost the game in large part because he missed that throw. So there are the two throws where that was the difference between 10 and 6. You got to make those throws. Again, he's a top 10 quarterback to me, but he's not top 5, not yet. He could be at some point, but right now he has not earned or projects to Patrick Mahomes money. And if they're asking for $40+ million a year, you can't do it because I'm with you. Jerry doesn't think he's that good. And all I know, Shannon, is I do know Jerry Jones. And when Jerry says, when have you known me not to get one of these done? That's true. That's what he said before he got Zeke done ahead of last year's opener, right? And right now, he's not getting this done because he's up against a quarterback and an agent who are asking for out-of-bounds money. It's so much money that you're overpaying. And remember, look what happened to the Rams. They overpaid Jared Goff and they overpaid Todd Gurley. I think they overpaid Aaron Donald. I don't think they'll ever get that much bang for their buck with Aaron Donald. Well, the Cowboys are teetering on overpaid across the board. Zeke, DeMarcus Lawrence, Jalen Smith, I can go on. Obviously, Amari. That was too much money for Amari, but you're sort of damned if you do or don't. You can't let him go. You need somebody there, so you overpaid. Now you're going to way overpay for the quarterback. Well, you're going to wind up in salary cap hell, stuck at 8-8 if you're not careful.
Well, see, Skip, Jerry used to getting deals done on his terms. Dak, for the first time, is bucking. Skip, Ozzie Newsome told me something a long time ago. He said, son, there are 53 guys on the roster. He says, probably 40 of those guys are going to take what the hell I give them. Now, there's going to be 5 or 6 guys, we're going to be in tough negotiations. But they're going to be 4 or 5 guys, you're going to be at their mercy. And you give them what the hell they want. That's how it works out, Skip Bayless. That's how it works out. And that's what they're doing. They're like they were at the mercy of Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper could have got what he wanted because they knew there were other teams bidding. All you had to do, if you wanted to see what Dak Prescott's value was, not put the tag on him. Don't tag him. Let him go see what the market would bear. And then if you want a match, he can bring that back to you and says, okay, this is what's out there. I'll give you an opportunity to match. It's not, okay, I'm sorry. But for you to put the tag on him and says, well, he's not worth that, you shouldn't have put the tag on him, and then you could have found out what he was worth. You know where I'm afraid this is all heading? Is that Dak will reject the tag and that Dak will actually start holding out a la Le'Veon in Pittsburgh, holding out real games, missing real games. And if that happens, obviously I'm sunk next year.
Shannon over there celebrating. We're done talking about Dak.
No mercy.
Ahead of the release of Michael Jordan's documentary on his final season with the Bulls, MJ recently said in an interview that after watching the footage, people may think he is a, quote, horrible guy. It's also worth noting that MJ did have final approval of the documentary. But Skip, I want to ask you this question. You got to know him very well. Why now? Why would MJ want to do this documentary now?
Several key reasons. Reason number one, he gets sick and tired of hearing LeBron James himself declare LeBron the greatest player ever, as he recently did in an episode on The Sharpe, in which LeBron was talking about how they came back from 3-1 down to beat Golden State 2016 finals. And LeBron's quote was, "That right there made me the greatest player ever." That right there also made somewhere Michael Jordan cringe. And I believe that Michael also gets sick and tired of watching Undisputed and hearing my man, Shannon Sharpe, proclaim LeBron James the GOAT and mislead millions of young fans into really believing that LeBron is the GOAT. So as Michael approaches age 60, he's now 57, and he starts thinking, gee, maybe it's time to repolish my legacy and remind people just how great I was, that I was the GOAT. He's not on Twitter. He's not on Instagram. So I think he decided, why don't I do it the way I do things, with an epic Inside Michael Jordan documentary. Obviously, the other thing that sticks in his craw is that he probably occasionally hears me, his biggest fan, point out the glaring fact that as a GM and team builder, owner and operator of the Charlotte Hornets, they're terrible. He is the worst GM in the history of the league. Shannon, They've made the playoffs 3 times in 14 years. This year, they're woeful. They're 23-42 so far, so they're not going to make these playoffs if, in fact, we have them. So all of that combined drove Michael Jordan to say, okay, now is the time. And I think he will benefit in many big ways of reminding some of the younger viewers just how great he was.
Skip, I really can't put my finger on why Michael felt this was the right time to release this. Maybe it was a situation, Skip, a part of what you said could possibly be true. And I alluded to this earlier, when athletes are playing, especially historically great, transcendent athletes, like, one day I'll be able to sit down and tell my kids or my grandkids, this is what your dad or this is what Papa did. Skip, I believe this is an opportunity for Michael Jordan to pop that DVD in and says, okay, for all you guys that didn't see or all you guys that saw only glimpses, this is the opportunity for me to show you what I was really like on the court. But it also gives you a behind the scenes of what made him tick off the court to get him to that point where he could perform at a supremely high level on the court. Skip, we really never know what makes a person tick unless they tell us. And Michael has given us glimpses, Skip, being cut. He always felt he was supreme, not making this or not doing that. And so that drove him. Someone would beat him, the night that LeBradford Smith dropped 30, I think he dropped 35 on him. He says, okay, I'll see you tomorrow. And then he dropped 35, 36 on him at the half. Now we even. So that's his mindset, Skip. And I think, he says, I'm, concerned I have about how people will look at me now, Skip. For the most part, we have an image, most have an image of Mike. We see him always buttoned up. We see the commercials, be it McDonald's, and we see the Space Jam. We see Gatorade, Be Like Mike, and we see him on the court. We saw the video, Skip, when he was dancing with Michael Jackson. We see that side, but there's a dark side. There's a Frank and Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde side. Now we're about to see that side, Skip. He peeled it back, Skip. He decided to show us. He didn't have to. Skip, he didn't tell us or show us how the sausage was made. We could have been perfectly fine just eating the sausage and have this pristine image of what Mike is and who he is. But he decided to take us into the factory and show us all the ingredients and how it's made. He decided that, and so I'm gonna watch it. For me, Skip, it's not gonna change. It's not gonna change because I have, like I said, know a few people that know him very well, and so I've heard stories about him. But to see it, Skip, there's one thing when you hear something, okay, yeah, and maybe if someone would do a documentary on Wilt Chamberlain, and then Skip, we get an opportunity to see, because Skip, you know, when you hear numbers, he averaged 40 points a game for 515 games, or he scored 100, or he had 78. Skip, that doesn't do it. He had 55 rebounds in the game. Skip, that doesn't do it justice for someone to just tell you about it. But if you could see the game, or the game before it became blocks, they say he had 15, 20 blocks in the game. He had a quadruple double with blocks. That would do it justice. Or Bill Russell, someone would chronicle him. Then it would give context, Skip, to show you just what these guys were. But Michael, to do this in an age, like he said, Skip, there was no IG, there was no Twitter, there was no Facebook, there was nothing. Basically, you watched it or you got it through word of mouth. Now guys are putting their own highlights on IG or on Twitter. Mike says, you know what? I'm tired of y'all doing all this talking. Y'all playing with my name. So I'm about to show y'all what Michael Jeffrey Jordan was really about. Y'all, Skip, he smoked cigars. That's a no-no. Athletes are not supposed to smoke, drink during the season. You might drink a little bit after the season, but you can't drink like that during the season. You can't go, hold on. For a finals game, you gonna go to Atlantic City and a playoff game, you gonna go to Atlantic City and play blackjack? You can't do that. Watch me. You can't play around with golf the day of a game. Who does that? Me? So every stereotype, that you think athletes shouldn't do or they shouldn't partake in, especially when they're competing at the highest level of competition, Michael Jordan blew all that away. Not only was he playing golf, not only was he smoking cigars, not only was he tequila or that hen dog, that's why eyes brown, mine a little brown like that, but I put some NAFCON A in them, lighten them up for the TV this morning. Skip, he did everything that you think an athlete shouldn't do to be great. Michael was smoking cigars, was drinking, he could do it. I don't know how. Skip, you remember the Shrug game? Magic Johnson told a story of how the Shrug game and how it came to be. They up 2 or 3 in the morning the night before the finals. And Mike dropped 6 threes in the first half. I don't know. I can't explain it either, Magic. But I'm anxious to see it, bro. I want to see it, Skip. I want to see it. I got to see it.
Just remember, when Dr. Jekyll became Mr. Hyde was a bad man. Mr. Hyde was invincible and unstoppable, ruthlessly so. And I'm with you. Michael would actually smoke a cigar on his long drive because the traffic is so bad in Chicago from his suburban home downtown to the United Center. He would smoke a cigar on the way to his games, to big playoff games. I didn't love it, but it didn't seem to bother him because there's a flip side to that. Thanks to the great Tim Grover, his trainer, they got up every morning at 6 and had what they called the Breakfast Club with Scottie Pippen and Ron Harper, led by Michael. And he was in supreme shape all the way through that 1998 season in Chicago. And he sort of reinvented himself as more of a stronger, a little more ground-bound player. But he became, obviously, in 97 and 98 seasons, Shannon, he was the greatest two-point turnaround jump shooter we have ever seen. Nobody was more lethal shooting jump shots, two-point jump shots. That was his game. And ironically, that's the opposite of LeBron's game. LeBron is drive it or shoot threes. And allow me to point out that Michael has been painfully aware of all the adoration, the idolatry, if you will, of LeBron James. And I found a story that had caught my eye back in 2013. I looked it up again last night. It was in ESPN, the magazine, by the great Wright Thompson. And it was about inside Michael Jordan, February of 2013. And he readily admitted that he was studying LeBron's game and that he heard every word uttered by all the announcers about how LeBron was entering the same category with Michael Jordan, and that he had already deciphered his game down to that when LeBron goes right, he usually goes to the hole. But when he goes left, said Michael Jordan in this piece, that he usually pulls up and tries to shoot some kind of jump shot. So Michael said, if I have to guard him, I'm going to push him left. So 9 times out of 10, he's going to pull up and shoot the jumper and I can contest it. But if he goes right, he's going to the hole. And Michael said, I can't stop him. What do I always say about LeBron? Greatest driver of the basketball ever. So I ain't letting him go right, said Michael Jordan. So even back in 2013, 7 years ago, he was already thinking in his mind, how I can beat him, how I can defend him, how I can shut him down. So he was painfully aware all the way back then of LeBron. And I believe he's hearing so much now about LeBron. That's probably the driving force of him doing this documentary, is to open the younger fans' eyes to just how great he was as a player, because they only know him as the GM of the woeful Hornets when they've been so sorry. And he wants to say, no, I was that. But if you're going to pull back the curtain on that, you're going to see Mr. Hyde. You're going to see not a nice guy. You're going to see cold-blooded basketball killer in ways LeBron doesn't function like that. LeBron's a really nice guy. Good guy off the court. He doesn't have all that Michael had going on off the court.
Skip, when I was reading the article the other day about Floyd Mayweather, because he said he could train Deontay Wilder to beat Tyson Fury. And they were talking in the article that Floyd Mayweather could be a historically great trainer as long as he realizes none of his fighters will ever be him. Well, I believe Michael Jordan can be a great general manager as long as he realizes none of the players he's drafting will ever be him. And I believe therein lies the problem, Skip. Yeah. That's why so many greats struggle. They can't understand. Well, I'm telling you what to do, bruh. And Magic said it. Magic said, man, you should do that right there. And the guy turned to him like, Irvin, that's not you. You asking someone to do what came naturally and so easy to you. That's what makes you generational upon generational great. Everybody can't do that. And, Skip, the thing is that when we look at athletes, Skip, some athletes, they go into this thing and it's like, okay, I'm training and I'm training for this. And I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't partake. Boxers say they don't engage in sex, whatever the case may be, Skip. But Michael, Skip, he smoked on the way to... Skip, who plays golf? You know how you got to walk on the golf course. Now, I'm not saying he walked 18 holes. Yeah, he had a cart. But still, I remember when I played, Skip, Mike would tell us on Friday, get off your feet. No going to the grocery stores. They tell you, let your wife go do that. Somebody got to go get picked up from the airport. Send a car. Let somebody else do that. Get off your feet. Skip, this is on a Friday. We're playing Sunday. Michael Jordan is walking on a golf course. Michael Jordan is in the casinos. So we have this perception of what great athletes are supposed to do. And if they don't, because what you say, Skip, if somebody doesn't play well, he must have been out partying all night. You could never say that about Mike because there were not very many games that he had off games. He was dropping 30, 40, and 50 after playing a night of cards, after probably having a couple of drinks of tequila and maybe some dog. That's just who he was. That's how he wired. So you're going to get an opportunity to see he's allowing that to happen, Skip. It's kind of like the vault. It's like when I show people my shoe club, they're like, man, I didn't know you had all those shoes. It's like people get an opportunity. You see me wear a different pair of shoes, but to actually see my closet. Well, Michael Jordan is showing you 14 years worth of closet. All the things that was in the vault that he probably didn't. He didn't want you to see that, Skip, when he was playing. That he is allowing you a glimpse at that now that he's done. Yeah. And so it's surprising. And for me, Skip, I'm like, okay, why now? And I get they moved it up, Skip, but they were going to release this in 2020. All they did was moving up 2 months because it was going to be released in June. So it was going to be released. Okay. You're thinking, and I'm thinking, why are you doing this at all?
Okay, let me go back to what you said about Floyd Mayweather, that you have to realize that guy you're training can't be as good as you. What is my rule of thumb about most great players? The greater you are, the worse you'll be picking players to play for you if you're the general manager. That's my rule of thumb. Yep. Ultimately validated by Michael Jordan. And again, I'm going to validate my objectivity here because I'm going to be painfully honest. Michael has been a terrible picker of players when he drafts for the Charlotte Hornets. Just a few of his swings and misses. He passed on Brandon Roy and drafted Adam Morrison. He passed on Drew Holiday and took Gerald Henderson. He passed on Clay and Kawhi to take Kemba. Not bad, but again, you got to be better than that. He passed on Bradley Beal and Damian to take Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. That won't work. He passed on Zach LaVine that we just talked about and Nurkic to take Noah Vonleh. He passed on Devin Booker to take Frank Kaminsky. That won't work. Siakam to take Malachi Richardson, and then Donovan Mitchell to take Malik Monk. You just miss because you're so great that you can't even see why others can or can't play. You are in your own world. Right. You're the GOAT to me, but you're the un-GOAT of draft GM team builder.
And that what kills your franchise, Skip, because when you miss on players, it's not like you're local in which other players, once their contract comes up, or want to go. See, the Lakers can miss on players, but guess what? That's a franchise. That's LA. Players are going to want to go there. In Charlotte, and the thing is, Skip, how do you keep that player? Okay, you hit on Kemba, but you couldn't afford to keep him because you're such a small market. So you've got to be great, or boom.
Yeah, don't worry, guys. We're going to hit everything documentary-wise. Michael Jordan, it cannot come soon enough. I do want to talk about a different GOAT, though. No mercy. All right, guys, it has been 20 years, but Tom Brady still has not forgotten about being passed up in the draft. He posted a list of every quarterback taken before him with the caption, "Nope, I haven't forgotten." So, Shannon, why? Are you surprised by this?
No, the great ones always remember being slighted. As I mentioned earlier, Skip, you remember Michael Jordan's Hall of Fame speech. But this is classic Tom Brady. Jenny, 1 minute the guy doesn't care about his legacy, and the next minute he's telling you about stuff that happened 20 years ago. I'm glad this is only unique to Tom, because every time I try to tell you, Tom Brady's just like everybody else. Shannon Sharpe, Shannon, what you don't understand is Tom Brady is unique. He doesn't have feelings. He doesn't have emotion. Bull jive. Everybody, if you weren't the first pick in the draft, you feel slighted. Let me tell you a story. Jenny, you and Skip, I don't even know if you know who Fred Smith is. Fred Smith was a guy that wrote a term paper. He turned the term paper in. He said, I have an idea. He said, because, packages, they take so long to get there. I believe we can take packages, send them to a central location, and get them out through by plane service and get them next day or 2 day. The professor gave him a C. Lo and behold, Fred Smith started FedEx. That motivated him. That drove him. But Tom Brady is different. Oh, Tom Brady, stuff that bothers everybody else, it doesn't bother Tom Brady. Skip Bayless, at some point in time, you're going to have to agree with me. I've never been, and I'm never going to be as great as Tom Brady on the football field. But this notion, because I don't know what makes this man tick, is sadly mistaken. Because Shannon Sharpe was a 7th round draft pick, 192. In the 7th round in 1990. And I remember Jackie Harris, and I remember Jesse Anderson, and I remember Eric Green, and Alexander Wright, and Reggie Rembert, and Mike Bellamy, and Fred Barnett, and Williams. And I remember all those guys that went before me, and I never forgot it. And I remember Buddy Ryan, who was the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, Skip, came and worked me out personally. I took my shirt off. He said, son, if you're available when we draft, we're going to draft you and we want you to play without your shirt because you'll scare hell out of all the other DBs. They passed me. Not once, not twice, but 4 times, Skip. So how do you think I forgot that? Never. And it drove me just like it drove Tom, it drove him. It drives him. Skip, you never forget being slighted. I don't care if you're in a relationship. Oh, you broke up with me? I ain't gonna get even with you. I'm just gonna get somebody that looks a little better and more successful than you. That's how I'm gonna get back at you. And that's how I did it. I got back at all those teams that passed on me. We won Super Bowls and I went to the Hall. How you like me now?
Well, I don't love it that you continue to put yourself in the same sentence with Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. He is the GOAT of quarterbacks. And the point of this topic is that he's almost 43 years of age, and he's still haunted and driven by the 6 quarterbacks picked above him, and he can rattle off their names. And by the way, Alexander Wright was a wide receiver. Are you saying wideouts pick above you? I mean, there'd be dozens of those, I would think, unless you do tight ends, but I'm saying whatever. Yeah.
No, but go ahead, Skip.
Okay, so the point is that he can rattle off names that nobody can even remember, such as Giovanni Carmazza, who played he didn't even make the team. The 49ers took him in the 3rd round. He couldn't even make the team, couldn't even play in the league. And when you look at the totality of the 6 picked above him, Chad Pennington was not bad, and he lasted 11 years, and he was 44-37 as a starter. Not bad. He was 2-4 in the playoffs. Not terrible. Mark Bulger was pretty good. He actually made 2 Pro Bowls. His starting record wasn't great. It was 41-54. He was 1-2 in the postseason. But if you add up all the records of all those quarterbacks, Tom Brady has already won 157 more games than all 6 of them combined, and still counting, because I think he's going to win 12 more games next year. But the point is, it's a little nuts. It's a little crazy. It's even psycho that you're still posting the names of those 6 guys and saying, nope, I haven't forgotten, as you approach age 43. And yet it relates to what I always call Tom during games. He goes psycho Tom. Sometimes I can't even recognize him because he loses it during games because he gets over emotional. He's gone off somewhere else competitively into some other dimension that is not the man next door, the nice, nerdy, cliche-ridden, lame dad next door. That guy gets left at home when he goes Psycho Tom during games. And Psycho Tom is still driven by 6 quarterbacks got picked above him, and he can still rattle off their names because he's obsessed with this. He plays possessed in ways that have shattered the mold. He is unique. We've never seen anything like this guy. I think he's going to be more driven than ever at age 43. And I do think a lot of the older players, including you, are a little bit jealous of him because he's actually had a rebirth at 43 and is talking about playing until he's 48. And I'm not going to bet against him because he's the one guy in sports outside of the days of Michael Jeffrey Jordan. I don't bet against Brady just the way I never bet against Jordan. They're very similar, though very, very opposite in how they come across off the field. But their competitive drive is the same, rare. We've never seen anything like either Jordan or Brady. And the brighter the lights, the bigger the moment, the better Brady has always been. Same for Michael. So now he's had a rebirth in Tampa with Bruce Arians and 5 weapons maybe, that he didn't have in New England last year. And he's on fire with it. He's trying to meet his new teammates virtually and get to know them because he's going to show Belichick he was wrong too. It's Jordan-esque because, as we talked about earlier, Michael took the opportunity of his Hall of Fame speech to blast every person down the line who had doubted him or crossed him. And Brady's got a lot of that in him. I don't think he would do it in his Hall of Fame speech, but he's basically doing it on Instagram right here, right now, and reminding everybody, I'm still standing, and here I'm coming for you.
But I'm saying, but Brady doesn't have that emotions. He's different. So why would he do? But see, you keep telling me, Shannon, you can, and I'm not trying, and I made that abundantly clear. But he's playing, so whatever he uses to motivate him. But the problem that I have with you is that you won't acknowledge that Brady has the same feelings, the same emotions as all the other athletes. Just because you're great does not mean you don't have feelings. That's the point I'm trying to get to you. You refuse to acknowledge that. Skip, just because I don't show fear, that doesn't mean I don't have fear. Those are two different things. You want to pretend Brady don't have a feelings if he doesn't show them. My problem, why you put these guys' name on IG? They didn't pick themselves before you. You should pick the teams that picked them on IG. You mad at the wrong people. See, again, a guy that doesn't care about his legacy, a guy that doesn't have feelings or emotion is doing things that somebody else would do. Why would LeBron do that? Why would LeBron say that? Why would LeBron do that? Tom Brady does it. He's motivated. He's such a leader. He's a fiery man. Miss me with that bullshit. Tom Brady, Shannon Sharpe is not Tom Brady. All Shannon Sharpe did was go to Division II Savannah State, get drafted in the 7th round, felt that he was slighted, and went to where I went. Because guess what, Skip? Whether you win 3 or you win 6, you won Super Bowls. Whether you go to the Hall of Fame and you're the best player in the Hall of Fame or the worst, you're in the Hall. So really, Tom Brady and I are a lot alike. Contrary to what you think, we're a lot alike. And guess what? He should have put Brian Griese up there too, because he couldn't beat Brian Griese out for the starting job at Michigan. How about that?
Or Drew Henson actually was the guy he couldn't beat.
I don't worry about Drew Henson. I'm talking about Griese. I'm talking about Griese.
Yeah.
What about Griese? Yeah. Whose fault was Brian Griese that won the Rose Bowl and the national title?
Well, this is the coach's fault because you had the GOAT, just like Michael Jordan. Dean Smith had the GOAT, and he actually shackled the GOAT. He was the only man who could stop Michael Jordan was Dean Smith, his college coach. And same thing for Tom Brady, who when he finally got his shot in his last game at the Orange Bowl against Alabama, he threw a party. And a lot of teams should have seen that coming. And by the way, this is another referendum on just how bad the NFL has been over time at picking quarterbacks. And next Thursday night, trust me, a whole lot of GMs and personnel directors will swing and miss on quarterbacks. This league is terrible at evaluating and predicting quarterbacks. But back to your point, I have never said that Brady wasn't human. He is very human. He's just very rare as a human, because you told me that at age 35, you hit the wall. You didn't want to participate in the film study and the meetings anymore. And Tom Brady is on fire with film study. That's what he does. He loves the meetings. He lives for this. He wants to go on. He's going to shatter the mold because he says, I figured out how to stay healthy and on fire all at the same time. He loves playing football. He doesn't want to play golf. He doesn't want to commentate. He wants to study tape, participate in quarterback meetings, and run an offense and go win games. That he's still going, he's loving it more than he's ever loved it. And a lot of ex-players say, gee, I wish I could have done that, and nobody could.
Yep, I didn't break down physically. I broke down mentally. I just didn't want to hear two-jet flanker drive. I didn't want to sit in meetings. I didn't want to go to meetings in the morning. I didn't want to do meetings after practice. I didn't want to study for 2-3 hours on my own. But Skip, as rare as Tom Brady is, and he's rare, he still have the same stimuli. He'll feel grief. He'll feel happiness, sadness, disappointment, anger, just like you and I. As rare as he is, so the same things that will make other people tick will make Tom tick. Hey, Jenny, you like this, Jenny?
Because I want you to listen up to this one. No, I don't like this. You're not paying attention. I'm cutting you off. We're done with Tom right now. I want you to listen. Shaq is now saying that, you know what? He and Kobe's Lakers could have easily beaten MJ and his Bulls. Easily. We debate next. No mercy. After the NBA's all-time dynasties were ranked a couple of days ago, Shaq was asked if his three-peat Lakers would have beaten Michael Jordan's Bulls team. Shaq's answer was short, of course, yes, easily. Shannon, who do you think would have won?
Man. The question I'm going to ask, like Shaq asked at the end, which team is Phil Jackson going to coach? That's going to be the very interesting part, Skip. But if we got two Phil Jacksons, Skip, I think I might have to take Shaq Lakers. Because you know why, Skip? Because of what you said. The most unstoppable, the most dominant figure that you saw was that 3-year stretch in which Shaquille O'Neal was unguardable. In the 3 finals, he was averaged 36, 15, and 3. Now, you have to understand what Michael Jordan went against in his finals run. He went against Mark West, Kevin Duckworth, rest his soul, Cliff Livingston. Skip, that's not going to cut it. And Bill Cartwright, Will Perdue, Luke Longley was not going to be able to do anything with the Diesel. Not then. And the game has started to change a little bit. So, Skip, I'm saying that we're going to take prime Jordan and we're going to put him in the 2000s where we had started to see a little bit more emphasis on the three-point shot because with those snipers around him with Robert Horry and Derek Fisher. And you got to realize, Skip, Kobe has started all of a sudden being Kobe. So I'm going to say, just because they got Shaq and nobody's going to be able to do anything with the daddy, I'm taking Diesel. I'm taking the Lakers. I'm sorry. I got to take the Diesel.
By the way, Phil coached Michael first, so I think Phil belongs to Jordan, not to the Lakers. I get Phil on my side. Yep.
Okay.
You know what I think. I'm going to say it again. I'm not going to bet against Michael Jeffrey Jordan, even in a series that would be epic, that would be an all-time great battle to watch between the Shaq Kobe Lakers and Jordan's. I'm going to go to the end of the line. I'll go to the 98 Bulls because we're talking about the Last Dance Bulls. Let's just take that team.
Right.
I told you that was the greatest defensive team I have ever seen in the NBA. It was nasty. It was physical. It was shrewd operation. It was, they knew each other. They were unified. They played off each other. It was hard to get the basketball across half court against Pippen, Jordan, and Ron Harper because they were so long and so strong and so quick and just so committed to just terrorizing the opposition just as they tried to get the ball past half court. So I'm going to give them the big edge on playing defense. And then I'm going to remind you that the Shaq Kobe Lakers went down ingloriously. They lost that last finals in 5 games to the Pistons. Chauncey was the MVP of that finals. And obviously it was Rip Hamilton, Ben Wallace, Tayshaun, Rasheed, but it wasn't up to the caliber of star power that the Lakers had. But what did the Lakers have underlying? Shaq and Kobe never quite got along. They were always at odds, if not at each other's throat. And it really manifested itself in that finals when they came apart and somebody had to go, and it was finally Shaq that had to go. So I'm going to give Jordan's team a psychological edge because they were united around Michael. And if we want to talk about Shaq, and I've said it many times, and you quoted me, and I appreciate that, and I'm standing by it. Shaq was the most dominating offensive force I ever saw during that period. It was almost impossible to referee him, but he never had to play against what would hit him between the eyes in this series, and that would be Dennis Rodman, who's not 7 feet tall. He's probably 6'8"-ish, but Dennis Rodman was a nasty physical defender who knew every trick in the book. He would be in Shaq's way, along with one of the 7-footers, either Winnington or Luke Longley, would be in Shaq's way every time he started to wheel. And every time he started to wheel and dive to the basket, you'd have Jordan or Pippen or Ron Harper clawing at the basketball and knocking it out of his hands. He would get frustrated by that collapsing defense on him. And then I'm going to remind you, as Kobe always said, the late, great Kobe always said, my big brother was Michael. And I do think that Kobe in the end would be a little bit overwhelmed trying to play big brother. Obviously, you had a big brother who was a great player. And he would be a little bit overwhelmed by it. And in the end, the greatest 2-point jump shooter in the history of the game, Michael Jordan, I believe that he would be the difference in this series. I think it would be a 7-game series. I think it might even go to the last shot. And at the end, right on cue, you would have Michael Jordan pushing off on Kobe, getting a little push off, rising, holding the pose as he swished a 2-point jumper to win the Game 7 by 1 point. So I got Jordan making the last clutch shot over Shaq and Kobe.
Nah, Skip, because at that point in time, Kobe was starting to be Kobe. He wasn't Kobe. He was starting to be Kobe. Up until then, he was Kobe Bryant. He was starting to become Kobe. He was starting to take over ball games. Shaq get in foul trouble. I got it, dog. I'll bring it home. And Kobe was not going to shrink it. Kobe didn't shrink in moments. And the last thing he would ever want to do is to shrink in front of the man that meant the most of him basketball-wise. You know, other than obviously his father was a big influence on his life, Skip. But he modeled his game. I mean, they're going to be looking at each other. They're going to look down. You got a wristband on your elbow. You got a knee sleeve pulled down like that. You wearing baggy shorts. You chewing gum. You walking like, whoa, what you do? Am I looking at me? It's almost like they're going to be looking at each other, Skip. The only difference is one has hair and the other's bald at that point in time. But, Skip, you got to be Dennis Rodman ain't going to do nothing with Shaq. First of all, that's not happening. And then, you know, Horace Grant was on those teams too, Skip. Mm-hmm. He ain't bothered. He ain't bothered nothing. He ain't bothering nothing, Skip Bayless. Shaq, 36, 15, and 3. Now, Mark West and Livingston and rest his old Kevin Duckworth, that's what Jordan faced at the big man. Come on, Skip. You know that Diesel was going to run through them.
Okay, but time out. If we look at the 3 finals that they won, remember, Shaq's going up against Allen Iverson Sixers, overachievers.
Mutombo.
That's not a huge test for him. They had Mutombo, but again, that's all you got. He was up there in years at that point. Then how about Reggie's Pacers? Reggie was getting up there in years. I don't know. That was pretty easy for the Lakers. And then it was Jason Kidd, you know, in the Nets. You know, again, they were pretty good, but they couldn't deal with Shaq. So I'm sorry. Right. I'm not seeing it. In the end, and again, there was no Horace Grant in '98, so it would be just the 2 big 7-footers and Dennis Rodman.
No, I'm saying Horace is on our side. The Lakers had Horace at that point in time.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I got you.
Yeah. But Skip, you make it seem like Jordan was beating the '85 Lakers and the big 3 Celtics. Look at what he went against. Phoenix? What big guy they had? Supersonics, what did they have? The Trailblazers, what did they have? Utah, really? Karl Malone wasn't a 5, Karl Malone was a 4. They've never faced anything like this. Never.
Okay, but you can figure, listen, the Trailblazers were loaded. That was Clyde the Glide and Terry Porter, and Duckworth was huge, and that was a deep basketball team. That was a tough matchup for them, but they always figured it out, and they did have to play Barkley, who was a great player, greater than anybody, yes. I think, that the Shaq Kobe Lakers had to face in that run. So, you know, to me, they would just figure it out. I think Shaq would get bothered by that defense because there'd be 4-on-1 at all times, and he would have a harder time than he had against his other finals opponents.
I give Skip, the Lakers, what they had to face was getting out of the West in San Antonio with Tim Duncan and David Robinson. That was their test. And once you got past that, then it was pretty much smooth sailing on the backside. But just getting out of the West when you had to go through Duncan and Robinson and Pop and some of those and some of those teams, that's what made it hard. And once you got past that, it was smooth sailing. But Shaq was big and skilled. Nobody else, Jordan never faced that.
No mercy. Jalen Green is the #1 high school basketball prospect, and he has now decided to bypass college, and he will be joining the NBA's G League developmental program. He will also be joined by another top prospect, Isaiah Todd, who says he's also skipping college. So, Shannon, what do you think? Do you like that they're doing this?
I love it. It's given. I don't think this is going to be, now this is going to be the wave of the future, but I do believe the top recruits, this is a very viable option for them. I think the Green young man, Skip, is going to make $500,000. Skip, that's real money. And I look at it like this. If somebody's going to make money off my abilities, it should be me. It will force the NCAA, what you going to do? All this, we can't pay them, we want to keep it student athlete, and we want to keep it amateuristic and all that other foolishness. You're going to have to do something. Because headphones and sweatsuits ain't going to cut it. And $500,000 Skip, and it gives them an opportunity to pursue sneaker deals and other streams of revenue. Nah, why wouldn't I? If I'm the number one recruit and I can take this avenue and make money, have other streams of money also, Skip, and it's in the same length of time. Guess what, Skip? 1 year, I can get to the NBA. I'm going to pursue this. I love it. I love guys maximizing the opportunity, betting on themselves. So, because what do I get out, Skip? I go to Duke. I go to North Carolina. What am I going to get? A sweatsuit? And thanks for coming? Because I'm only going 1 year if I'm a top player. Nah, I love this, Skip. I love this. I don't like it. I love it.
Good points, all. Before I answer Jenny's question, I'm going to take a quick right turn and mention that Lil Wayne just texted me, and he called me Nathaniel, and he did so because last week on the show, Shannon Sharpe said my middle name was Nathaniel, and it's not my middle name. I've never even known a Nathaniel in my life. I don't know one now, and yet Shannon called me Nathaniel. Lil Wayne thought it was so funny. He's now calling me Nathaniel. And I guess I get a kick out of it, but it's not maybe it's my new middle name. I don't know.
It is now.
Back to the drawing board. Yeah, it is now. Thank you for that. What I would love to see, obviously, is what happened during LeBron's day when if you didn't want to go to college and you wanted to go make the money you knew you could make in pro basketball, you should be able to go. It remains unconstitutional that these kids can't go straight from high school and make however much they could make as a top pick in the NBA draft straight out of high school. I know a lot of people say, oh, but they're not going to college. If they want to go to college, they can go in the off season. They can get a degree if they so choose. I liked college. I was cut out for college. That was just me. I didn't have the talent that these kids obviously have to play pro basketball. So there's a part of me that's still a little bit angry that they're forced to either go to Australia for $500,000 or to the G League for $500,000, somewhere in that ballpark. It's, as Shannon says, it's good money, but they could make better money if they were going straight into the NBA as a high pick in the draft, even if they just slot it in. Okay, now, there's one thing they're going to miss going G League or Australia to me, Shannon. The only thing that can help speed their growth if they go for 1 year to Duke or Kentucky or wherever they're going to go, Michigan, that is that when you get to play on national TV in big games on huge stages such as March Madness, I think it helps hone your ability to handle pressure. Like in the G League, I think they're going to play like a dozen games and nobody's really going to be watching. So when Jalen Green actually gets into the NBA and plays in a big game, that's going to be the first big stage game he's ever played in. So I do think it helps Zion, let's say, to play in the ACC tournament in a big national TV game on Friday and Saturday night, Sunday afternoon. And I do think it helped that he played in the March Madness tournament, in the NCAA tournament where you're playing on Sunday with the whole world, so to speak, watching you. I think that's that's the only good thing about playing 1 year of college basketball, because the rest of it, to your point, Shannon, is it's just foolish hypocrisy because a lot of the kids aren't even going to class for the year anyway.
Exactly. Skip, you know what you never heard? When we see all these young men and women that leave high school and go straight to the military, not one person say, you know what, they should go to college first. They should be made to go to college before they can go to the military. Nobody says that. But they will, I got a chance to make $5 million, $10 million. Oh, you need to go to school. Skip, I go to school to get an education to help me make money. If somebody wanted to kick out that middle process and say, okay, Shannon, go from high school to straight making money, who am I to say no? I wish I might, Skip. That would be like you. You coming out of high school. You're a great writer. And some publishing company say, Skip, we want you to start writing for us right away. Here it is. When you started going to school, we got $150,000, $200,000. Huh. $150,000, $200,000, or I could go to college. Mm-hmm. People gonna go get that money, Skip. That's why you were going to college, so I can go get me a good job and make money. Somebody's gonna give me the good job right after high school. Huh? And guess what, Skip? You remember when Zion was in school, his only year, they play in North Carolina. The tickets going for $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. How much of that money Zion get? Zion said, guess what? I agree with you, Skip, 100%. If a guy has the ability, LeBron would have got nothing from going to Ohio State for a year. Kevin Durant got nothing. Kevin Durant should have been allowed to go to the NBA. But not his here nor there. But Skip, if I can go make $500,000 and bypass college, why wouldn't I do that? When LeBron ain't going back and getting no college degree. Trust me.
Okay. And don't get me started, Shannon, on your league, the NFL, where the Constitution says you have to go for 3 years to college. Don't get me started on an Adrian Peterson or, dare I say, a Maurice Clarett. They could have played pro football when they were playing freshman football at OU and the Ohio State. It's just wrong, and someday somebody will make this right.
Yep, I agree.
No mercy. Well, Bill Belichick might not be as sold on Jarrett Stidham as we thought. The NFL Network is reporting that the Patriots plan to use a premium draft pick on a quarterback and that Brian Hoyer will likely be the starter next season in New England. So, Shannon, can you see Brian Hoyer starting for the Patriots next year?
No, he has, I say that, Skip, but he has started 38 games in his career. And for any report to come out of New England and say they know what New England's going to take is not true. They keep it as close to the vest. I have yet to hear somebody get it right. Well, New England's going to take this guy, and they actually take that guy. So nobody knows what New England, but trust me, Skip Bayless, Coach Belichick did not give Tom Brady an extension to have him leave in order to bring Brian Hoyer back. So let me get this right. We knew Tom Brady was going to leave, and in the process, we got Stidham in the wings, but Cleveland's going to cut Brian Hoyer. We're going to re-sign Brian Hoyer, and Brian Hoyer's going to start. Do you see how asinine and how ridiculous that sounds, Skip Bayless? I believe Jarrett Stidham will start. Now, if he falters, I don't believe Coach Belichick will have an opportunity, don't have a problem inserting Brian Hoyer. But I believe Stidham gets every opportunity to start this year.
On that, we agree. The player he now calls Stid, nicknamed him Stid, not Stiddy, but Stid. I believe he wants that player, a fourth-round pick 2 years ago, to be his next Tom Brady, the former sixth-round pick. I'm with you about Brian Hoyer. This is his 10th NFL stop. This is his third time around with New England. It's hard for me to believe that was the grand plan. It's also hard for me to believe, but sometimes Belichick can have an ace or two up his sleeve, that he's going to figure out how to have a premium pick to use on a quarterback of note that could be their starting quarterback next year or at least the next. I don't think Tua will fall to number 23 where Belichick sits right now. I don't think Jordan Love will fall that far. Maybe Belichick has fallen in love with another quarterback, second, third round, but it feels like it's Stid or bust next year, and I'm not seeing him he doesn't have the draft capital to maneuver up the first round to get one of the star quarterbacks.
Skip, look, Jacoby Brissett started, but that was out of necessity. Tom Brady was suspended. Jimmy Garoppolo had gotten injured. The likelihood, since we've known Coach Belichick as a head coach, he does not like starting rookie quarterbacks unless he absolutely, positively have to. Mm-hmm. So I believe this is a situation that Stid will get an opportunity to play.
No mercy.
Thank you for listening to the Undisputed Podcast. I'm Jenny Taft. Keep an eye out for the weekend edition of the podcast tomorrow morning, featuring this week's best segments. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Fox Sports, one of one.